Hey everybody, Jam Creates here, doing another screen capture video for you guys. I don't know why, like I don't know. A lot of YouTubers do this, and I found myself doing this too. I always say like, "Hey, I'm here with another video." Well, duh. If I wasn't here with another video, what are you watching it right this moment? Anyway, beside that, just welcome to the channel. We're gonna do another It Came from ComiXology today. Trying to get back on that train only because I know a lot of people stuck at home, can't get to comics. There's not new comics coming out from the mainstream, at least. There's, some places are still putting out new books, like Alterna and crowdfunding and that kind of thing. But also, you might have more you want to read, and a lot of time for a lot of people right now. So, I figure I dive into ComiXology and I have a ComiXology Unlimited subscription. So if you have that, you might as well make use of it. So I dive in, I just pick stuff at random and then just go. This time there was a little bit of a method behind what I chose. It's because it's from Zenescope, and I have never read anything by Zenescope before. I realized that today that I don't think I've ever read a Zenescope book. And really all I know about them is from the stuff they post on social media and stuff where they post they post like their covers and pinups and things like that. And they're generally known for their cheesecake covers. And that's pretty much all I knew about them, is that most of their books have female leads, and most of those leads are featured in like cheesecake covers on the covers of their books. And they usually do lots of variants. And sometimes they get some really good artists to do variants, and they're really cool looking, but like I never really checked out the books. So I thought it was about time. So I just popped onto ComiXology, and I found the Robyn Hood uh, Omnibus and figured I would check that out for you guys. So before we get into that, I just want to say thank you for being here, and thank you for all the new subscribers. Welcome, welcome. We've been growing. The channel's been growing, and that's awesome. I want to thank that umbrella guy for giving me a shout out during one of his live streams the other day. That was really cool. If any of you guys came here from there, put in the description, just write like Tug sent me or something. That'll be fun. Just to see, just for the heck of it. So anyway, um, just so you guys, in case you don't know, if you want to help support the channel, there are ways you can help support. We're not monetized here. I don't have enough people for that. So, even when I do live streams, there's no there's no super chats or any of that stuff. So right here, this is the store. You can go to this store, and I'll put the link in the description. So you can just click on the link and follow it, and you can get cool Smiley Bones shirts, stickers, and Indie Comics Underground shirts, stickers, and a mug. What is Indie Comics Underground, you might be asking yourself? Well, Indie Comics Underground is the free online zine that I make, dedicated entirely to crowdfunded and indie comics. So if it's an indie comic of any kind, um, whether it is self-published, print on demand, crowdfunded, printed through a small publisher like, say, a Zenescope, or Action Lab or Alterna Comics, or any of the other really small publishers, Vault, all them, let me know, hit me up. That's what this is for. So if you're a creator, get in touch with me. You get to see on the website, just go to indiecomics.underground.com, and you can check out every issue that's come out so far. And while you're here, you can see all these issues with the cool covers. Um, Always have cool covers. The next issue is no different. It's going to have a badass cover by Jonathan Rector. And there's always interviews with creators, and, heads up on cool new books that are coming. Um, and just, lots of stuff. And I always put links in there because since it's an online zine, you can put links in there. So there's always links to campaigns, to social media profiles for creators, all sorts of stuff. So you can just always, even from there, you can continue to find different stuff and help you find new indie books to check out. And it's just, it's free. And if you subscribe, you get it first. You'll get it before it gets posted to the website. So that is Indie Comics Underground, and that is the store for supporting the channel. So let's get into the actual topic of the video today. This is Robyn Hood, Volume 1. They call it Volume 1. It's called, I think they call it, they call it the Robyn Hood Trilogy Digital Omnibus. and so you can see, Zenescope. It tells you what it compiles the Robin Hood origin 1 to 5, Robin Hood wanted 1 to 5, and Robin Hood legend 1 to 5. So it's a bunch of pages. It's big. So if you're into it, it's definitely something that you're gonna spend some time reading. Although I kind of honestly read through it fairly quickly. Um, the reason I chose this book, in particular, of all the Zenescope things that are out there, was for a couple of different reasons. One, I chose it because it's a version of Robin Hood. Um, Robin Hood is one of my all-time favorite classic, stories from classic literature. When you talk about old, it's funny because really take it back. Even in the old days, the old days, there were people who understood that making fun, escapist, just action adventure stories were gonna sell, were gonna be popular. Robin Hood is one of those stories. I read it when I was a kid. I read the book when I was a kid, and have absolutely loved it. I love the movie with Errol Flynn. The other movies, not so much. But I just always have loved the character of Robin Hood. The Disney movie, of course, I loved. I think everybody loves that movie. Um, and along with Treasure Island, which is also one of my other favorites. Some of these guys back in the day, the Jules Vernes of the world, the Robert Louis Stevensons, all these people, like, they understood. Even someone who people don't talk about that much, but even someone like an Edgar Allan Poe. Not that people don't talk about him, but like they don't talk about him in this regard. He made fun stories. Not that his stories were fun, like, "Ha, ha, ha," but they were entertaining, and they were creepy, and, like, he made horror. That's what he did. Like, people back then understood the value of entertainment the way a lot of people nowadays seem to have forgotten about entertainment just for entertainment's sake. So anyway, let's jump into this book. That was really why I chose this, is because it's Robin Hood, which instantly appeals to me. And then because, like I said, I had never read a Zenescope book. And so here we go. Here's an omnibus. So if I like it, I can read the entire thing. So I did read the entire thing. So I'm going to just preface that by saying that I read the whole thing from start to finish. Um, it has an interesting beginning. When it starts off here, you just see this car wreck and her crawling away from it, and you're not quite sure what happened there. And then they give you this little glimpse of her origin. Um, it really she was found by these people, and they were like, basically, like, this, like, the lion dude and all these people are like, oh, we should kill the baby because it's born of darkness or whatever. So but he's like, he couldn't do it, he can't bring himself to do it, so he brings it to our world, leaves it on some random person's doorstep, which I feel like if he was gonna try and, like, help the baby, he could have at least found, like, a better house than this. uh, but anyway, um that kind of plays into the whole thing. So she grows up in this adopted household, and she's got an abusive father, and her mother is sick. Her father's a drug dealer. It's a whole sort of thing, and she's basically, a rough upbringing, which you kind of expect. Like, she's going to be like this hoodlum character, whatever. It kind of fits to why she would eventually become a Robin Hood type. Uh, so her father actually throws her out of the house because she buys medicine. And then we also, at the same time, are getting this story about this kingdom where the king is treating people terribly and they need help. And this, like, sorceress lady is like, well, there is someone who can help, but she's not ready yet. So they really take liberties with the story. So, for example, there is no King Richard in this story. So if you're familiar with Robin Hood, basically the story of Robin Hood is King Richard goes off to fight in the Crusades. Prince John takes over the throne while King Richard is gone. He's left in charge. And then he basically just ruins everything, treats the people terribly, taxes the heck out of them. He's just a mini, he's a mini dictator, whereas King Richard is portrayed as the benevolent ruler everyone loved. And basically Prince John tries to just take the throne. That doesn't really happen in this. We just are introduced. There's a King John, and he has a son, actually, which into play later. So let me skip ahead just because, like, there's a lot of pages to get to in here. So I want to start off by saying, first and foremost, um, the art in the early going, the art is very. I feel like the art is very up and down, um, only because like the art in this issue in the beginning here is very good. Um, So we skip ahead here, but it really does go up and down. Like there is definite, like when you go from this first, I think it's the first issue, when you get to the second issue, you notice a drop off in the art quality. But then it kind of goes back up and it goes down, it goes up and down. It's kind of hit or miss. If you're into the story, you can kind of live with it. It's never terrible. Like I don't want to say that. I don't want to make it sound like it's awful because it's not. It's just you notice a difference. Let me just put it that way. Um, so she's assaulted by these people, and you know, maybe it's just me, but I didn't completely understand what happened here. Like at first, like he cuts her eye out and he also rapes her, but you don't really realize that per se. She steals his car. He's the big jerk on campus. She's a jerk too, though. Like she steals his car just to prove a point. And then they wreck it. And then because of course he's rich and his dad is rich and they've got the police in their uh pockets, they are able to get away with it. And then she winds up getting pulled into, even though she's the one who was assaulted, she did steal the car. So she goes to jail for stealing the car, and then she's sucked into the other world. We get into a weird thing. I have to be honest. Like Robyn is not very likable. Um, and I'm sure that's by design, I guess. But um, it's kind of weird. I'm never really a fan so much of making the unlikable hero. Um, Unless they're gonna have, like, a turnaround, which she kind of does, but then it's really odd because as the first storyline goes on, um, she she helps the kingdom, she eventually, she helps the kingdom, um, and now you can see the difference in the art, by the way. That was from one issue to the next. Like, this was chapter 1, and then we get into chapter 2, and you can see the art has changed. Like, it's a noticeable difference. I'm not saying it's any necessarily really worse or terrible or anything like that. It's just very different, and it was jarring to go from one to the next. Um, the weird thing is, though, like, she shows up, and then she just immediately, like, kills 5 soldiers. Eventually, though, unlike, um it's very weird. Like, there's a lot of layers to the story, and I would kind of be interested to see how everyone perceives it. What happens is, okay, so I'm gonna kinda jump ahead, really far now because there's a lot of story here. I mean, you're talking 3 different miniseries. So, basically, she fights she basically does the Robin Hood arc of, meeting the merry men, and if ComiXology can get its stuff together, there we go. She meets the merry men and she ends up, you know, doing the Robin Hood thing. There's the not so much the stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but there's the tournament, and it's not just an archery tournament. There is more to it than that. She gets obviously discovered and she gets arrested, and she eventually, she escapes, and it's a whole thing, and she foments basically a revolution. Um, but then the really weird thing is like you see her like becoming redeemable. Like she's a jerk and she's a lousy person, honestly, even though she had lousy circumstances. She doesn't care about killing people. She doesn't feel anything when she kills people. Um, but then she does make sort of a comeback. I'm gonna just make that bigger so you can see it better. And she does the right thing and she helps the people and she saves the kingdom. But then the really weirdest thing happens. You start to feel like, oh, okay, so she's actually a good person now. Like this is what's happened. She's grown. She's become a good person. But then she shows up she comes back to our world. She's sent back to our world. And while she's in our world, she whoops, um, she murders the idiot kids who were in her high school. She murders the two friends of the jerk, of the rich guy. Then she murders his father right in front of him. And then she proceeds to actually murder him. Like, she tortures him and lights him on fire while he's alive. She cuts out his eye and then burns him alive. This is not a good person. This is not a hero. And then on the way out, it just so happens that the first two responding cops are the same cops who responded to her when she stole the car and had the accident. And then she shoots them with arrows. She eventually kind of like tells them to leave. Like, I guess she kind of has a conscience about it. But then the sheriff shows up and she kills the sheriff. She's just like, it's very odd. It's a very, very odd situation when you read it and you're like, I don't like her. Like, this is too much. Like, this is sadistic and mean. And just kind of evil. Like, I get wanting to get revenge, but it's like really, really horrific what she does. Then we go further into the story. When you get into the next story, you start to actually, as we move along, you kind of get a feeling for why she overdoes this, like why she's so vicious. She actually is evil. It turns out. She was born of this darkness, and she was meant to lead a she was actually meant to lead an army of monsters, essentially. And there's a whole thing with Sir Guy of Gisborne and with the prince and everything else. And honestly, it's an interesting story. It really is. Like, but what it turns out is you realize that she's not really good. You feel for her, but I don't know if you ever actually 100% like her. She goes back and forth between our world and the other world a few times, and the adventures are interesting and they're good, honestly. Like, the story is good, and I would recommend reading it, but I definitely think like some people are going to probably like her as a yeah, you go girl kind of thing, but other people are going to look at it and go, she's just morally bankrupt and she's not really a hero. So I don't want to, I mean, I'm like going through everything. There's a lot to unpack here. I would love to talk to someone else who's actually read it. So if you've read it, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and what you think of her as a character. They eventually launched an ongoing, they tease at the end of this whole thing. So I'm not really sure where that went. Again, like I said, I haven't read any of this other stuff. But just out of curiosity's sake, I would love to talk to someone else who has read these and just see what they think. They put cover galleries in here, so that's kind of cool. Like, you can see all the variant covers. There's some cool ones. Like, you can see like they have like whole variant covers, like just, and they tell you who did them, like, Stepan Sayich, or said, I don't know how to say his name. Lots and lots of good artists, so some cool variant covers and stuff. It's pretty neat to see. But anyway, let me know if you read this book. Let me know in the comments if you read it and what you think of it. I'm really interested to see what people will think of this story and of this character. I know this kind of went longer than I expected it to go, but it's a long, long book, and there's a lot to dig into. And honestly, I could go longer talking about the character and stuff. So obviously, it had an effect on me. But I'd be curious to know what you guys thunk of it. Yeah. What you guys think of it. Let me know in the comments below. If you're new, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can follow me on Twitter. Hit me up there. Let me know if you read this and what you thought of it and what you thought of this video. If you want to see more of these, you want to see me read more Zenescope and dive into maybe some other publishers that I haven't really gone too deep into, I'd love to do it. Let me know if you have any suggestions, maybe some other Zenescope books. If you're a Zenescope fan, let me know. Follow me on Twitter at jam_creates. You can follow me on Instagram at jam_creates. And don't forget to go to indiecomics.underground.com and sign up for the free online zine. I'm putting the finishing touches on the new issue. Had a last minute interview I'm trying to get in, and then some other people who have not gotten back to me. So I don't know if their books are going to get promoted in the zine. Honestly, I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but like, it's more fun to have interviews than it is to just have me say, hey, look at this book. But anyway, that's it. I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you like this video. And if you want to see more of this stuff, let me know. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.